Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our coffee break this morning. And remember, during our coffee breaks, we've been talking about homeschool topics of your choice. Many of these topics have come from you, our audience, so we do appreciate your feedback. And today we're going to be talking about how to teach emotion regulation skills to promote a positive learning environment. This was one request from, well, it wasn't just a request from one person, but several parents out there had asked about, my child has such an emotional response to learning new things or doing activities that seem too difficult. What can I do? So we're going to talk about emotion regulation skills, which are really key. These are the skills that allow you to manage and direct your emotions. And you may look at this list here that I'm putting up right now, and you might relate to some of these things. That your child seems to have a meltdown when it comes to activities that are difficult, or maybe a math assignment that he or she doesn't necessarily understand. And right away, they just, instead of working through that activity, have an emotional response. You might sometimes look at your child and think, why is she having such an emotional response to something that seems so small? Or you may have a child who has ADHD and is also a perfectionist. So when he makes a simple error, instead of just erasing that error and moving on, he gets incredibly angry and rips up the paper. And then it's hard to bring him back to the learning environment. And this is just part of executive function. We know that ADHD and weak executive function often go hand in hand, right? More than 90% of our children and adults with ADHD have weak executive function. And a large part of executive function is emotional control. And so this is just simply one of those skills that we can teach. And we do this within play attention as well. Part of play attention is to develop the core cognitive skills that are necessary for strong executive function. So when we're laying that foundation by that skill building, in order for your child to have emotional control, he or she has to be able to pay attention to the situation, needs to be able to process the information, control their impulsive responses, and you're going to be working on all of that within play attention. So if you're a current client, keep that in mind, that when you are working on your sessions, you are actually laying the foundation for strong emotional control. If you yourself have been looking into starting play attention and you want to chat with one of our executive function coaches on how we can help your child do this and customize a plan, keep in mind we can do that as well. But there are other steps we can take when we're working on the day-to-day, and it is important that we teach executive function, emotional regulation skills, because good emotional regulation helps your child develop positive relationships and is also a strong predictor of academic performance and success. And it goes hand in hand with academic success, because if they can control their emotions, then your child is going to be able to focus on the assignment, focus on the exam, rather than being distracted by anxiety or high emotion or negative feelings. So this really does, if you can control your emotions, then you're going to achieve more academic success. Also, students who self-regulate perform better on tasks involving delayed gratification, which we know is important. If you don't understand the importance of delayed gratification, make certain that after this coffee break, look up the marshmallow experiment. And we know it's, if you look at the video on YouTube, it is very funny, but it also shows us, if you really look at the study, that delayed gratification is an important life skill. And if your child can delay gratification, it is a predictor for success later in life. Also, if your child can self-regulate and control emotions, they're better at tasks that deal with inhibition and dealing with long-term goals. So how can you help your child deal with emotions appropriately? One important step is to help your child identify and label emotions. Also, make certain that there are strategies in place, that your child is aware of certain strategies that he or she can use in order to deal with the identified emotion. Now, this is something that you may have just assumed your child understands already, so you didn't actually sit down and identify these emotions with your child. But if you haven't done that, they may really be struggling with this process. And when you do this, when you actually identify the different emotions and you put a label on those emotions, then it tells them it's okay. It's okay to have emotions, right? It's okay to be happy, to be excited, to be sad. But we need to know also, if things are getting out of control, how to deal with it. It's okay, but you need to know how to deal with it. If you help your child develop emotion regulation skills now, it's going to help him or her throughout their lifetime. We know that adults who do not have good emotional skills or emotion regulation skills report less job satisfaction, mental health, and general well-being. So keep that in mind. You're not just looking at the now and today, although that's important, right? Because right now, school has started for many of you, or it's about to start, and you know that this is going to be an area of concern. So it is important now, but if you lay these skills down now and help them develop these skills are going to be something that helps them in the future for long-term success. So there are many different ways you can identify and label emotions, and it will depend on the age of the child, how you're going to do this. This is a general way of how to do this, and you can really modify it whether the child is 5 years old or if you're working with a 15-year-old. But really, if you think about it, we can even use these steps as adults. We had a feelings folio blog last week that really helps adults really work through and identify these different emotions. So keep that in mind. One way you can do this is talk about a stoplight, a motion traffic light. Learn when to stop and learn when to go. So we're going to label and identify the different emotions using that traffic light type of model. So if you are we have 4 zones we're going to talk about. And when we talk about these different zones, you can have your child actually make a list. If your child is older, your child might make a list of the emotions that are included in this zone. Or if you have a child who likes to draw, maybe have your daughter or your son draw the different emotions. What do I look like when I'm sad or tired? They can draw that. Or you might cut out pictures from a magazine and have a little collage of the different zones. Or you can use the good old emojis, because everyone seems to use emojis these days. So there are lots of different ways you can set up these zones, but I think it's important that you do more than just talk about them, right? Talk about them, but then put them down in some manner, whether it's a collage, drawings, just a simple written list. Make certain you have them written down or in a picture format so that you can refer to these later. Might be something you actually put these zones up in their study area where they actually do a lot of their homework as a reminder. So we start with the blue zone. This is considered our rest area. And this is where you might have low energy and you're not very productive. So you don't want to stay here long because you are sad or tired, sick or bored, and you just aren't being very productive. So the rest area, that blue zone, it's an area where these emotions are kind of in a more sleepy type of state, unproductive. We don't want to stay there. The green zone is where we want to be. This is our goal. We want to be in the green zone where we're balanced and positive. So the emotions might include being calm, ready to learn, happy, friendly. And the key here, especially when you're talking about school, is ready to learn, right? You're in that positive mindset. We talked last week about, building that positive mindset. This is where you want to be, in that green zone. So this is the go green zone. Then we have the slow yellow zone. Now, this zone is where you may start getting a little bit troubled, right? It's not extreme. However, you can start feeling that things aren't going well. So you might start being a little fidgety. You might feel that frustration. You might be a little bit hyper, or you feel yourself getting upset. And so really talk about these emotions and also how you feel when you're in this zone. So you might have your face is getting flushed, or your jaw is getting clenched. You get a little bit sweaty or hot. So talk about not only the emotion, but physically, how do you know you're in this state? That's really important, that they're identifying those triggers, right? If you're in this state, what do you feel like? So you can better predict where you are, really know where you are, so you can make some adjustments before moving on to the red zone, because this is our stop, right? Remember that traffic light model? So we have our rest area where we're a little bit sleepy. The green zone is the good zone. And then we have that yellow zone where we start feeling those stirring of emotions. We don't really want to elevate them to the red zone. This is where you need to stop. Okay. And you can talk about that in the traffic light scenario, right? Red means stop. Yellow means slow down, red means stop. And this is where you don't want to be, because not only are there emotions, but there are behaviors that you want to stop here. So you feel mad, you might be anxious or angry, you start yelling or hitting. So talk about the behaviors here as well. So this is a really good opportunity for you and your child to kind of map out these different zones. What do you feel like? What do you typically do in these scenarios when you're in the green zone? What is your body doing? What are you doing? How are you talking to others? When you're in the red zone, what are you doing physically? How do you feel physically? What are your actions typically? And so this is a really good area for them to reflect and put it all down. Because like we said, when you're in the moment, you might not be processing the information appropriately, right? They might even forget what that felt like or what they did. So get it down, have a reference point. So now you've labeled and identified all of the different feelings and emotions. And you can make this list so that you can add to it. If something new comes up or they identify something new, have them add that to their list, have them add that to the appropriate zone. So it's a list that can be ongoing and growing all the time. Then once you've identified them and labeled them, it's important to know what to do, right? What are your strategies? Sometimes they simply are unaware of the strategies, or you may have discussed them, right? You may have talked about those strategies in the moment. But again, just talking about it in the moment might not be enough for your child to process that information and store it for use later. Because remember, working memory is also an area of executive function that is often weak. So it's not enough to just talk about it in the moment. If your child is angry in that red zone and maybe having one of those emotional breakdowns, you talk about it in the moment, which is important. And what should you have done to make that time different? That's all important. But when you can reflect on it afterwards and document it, it's going to help them process that information and store that information in their mental workspace so that they're going to be able to better apply it later on. So let's talk about the different strategies to bring yourself back. And you can sit down and brainstorm. If you have more than one child, or if you're a teacher and you're working with multiple students, make certain that you're doing this so they know that when I start getting in that yellow zone, what do I need to do to bring myself back to that green zone before I get up to the red zone? So different strategies might include talking to me, the parent, or talking to your friend, or, and I put just all X's there, identify a specific person that is good to talk to. All right, and that might be different for everyone. Focus on your breathing. Take 20 slow, deep breaths, counting as you go. And of course, that number might change based on the age of the child. Ask to go outside and walk in the grass. Take a break, do jumping jacks or an exercise of your choice. You know, oftentimes when you can just remove yourself from the situation for a moment and come back, that can really help change the mindset. Self-talk. So just start talking to yourself. When you feel that you're in that yellow zone, start talking to yourself. What's occurring at this time? Why do I feel this way? Are things really that bad? Can I bring myself back? How can I do that? What do I need to do in order to just move through this situation? Listen to your favorite song, practice mindfulness if that's something you've worked on with your child. Have your child just step back, do a drawing, pet the dog or the cat, whatever they can do in order to get themselves back to that green zone. You might have strategies yourself. Share that strategy. I know my strategy is always deep breathing. So you might not notice it when I'm standing in front of you, but I am doing that often. And that really does help me. I know that that's one of the strategies that helps me. So share with your child what helps you. And you might also add to this list. So when you catch your child self-correcting and doing a new strategy, make certain you mention it. You know what? I noticed that you did this in order to bring yourself back to the green zone. Let's add that to our list. So make certain that you become very aware of some things. And this list is important to have, remember, at hand. You can even put it up in their workspace somewhere where they always have those strategies to go to. And they can work through those strategies. Now, of course, every strategy isn't appropriate for each environment. So you may need to put these into categories. Which strategies can I do at home? Which strategies can I do at school? Which of these strategies can I do if I am on a Zoom meeting with my teacher and other students? So make certain they know which strategies are appropriate for each different category. And then also, once you do this, make certain that if it's a strategy for school or a Zoom call or a Zoom class, then make certain that you talk to the teacher and the teacher knows that this is a strategy the child is going to use when he's getting into the yellow zone or he's in the blue zone or we've gotten to the red zone. Okay, so make certain that the teacher is aware of it and the teacher approves as well. The teacher may also have some suggestions that can be added to the list. And vice versa, the teachers can talk to the parents about what they've developed at school and how to incorporate that at home. So this is just a very simple type of process that you can start today in order to make certain you label, identify those emotions, put them down. Don't just have a conversation. Put them down somewhere, display them. If you do this activity with your child, or if you have multiple children, or if you're co-oping right now with another family for homeschool, make certain that all of the children are involved and contribute, and then put these lists, these zones, whether they're pictures or just lists, somewhere where they're accessible. And then also have your child share. So if you're sitting down at the dinner table, and then maybe one of the siblings wasn't there for this activity, or maybe mom or dad, you weren't there while this activity was happening, then make certain that you talk about it. Remember today we talked about the different zones. Can you tell your dad, or can you tell your grandmother what we decided these different zones are and how you feel? So after you do the activity, later on that day, the next day, a week from now, make certain you have your child explain the different zones and the different strategies to someone else. Because the more you visit these different zones and you talk about them and you talk about the strategies, you're helping them process that information and keep that on their mental workspace so that they can apply these skills later. So again, emotion regulation skills will help your child develop positive relationships and focus on learning, and will also lay the foundation to a healthier, happier adulthood. So this is just one strategy, and we do recommend that you also model effective emotion regulation, because your children, whether you think that they always ignore you, even if you think they always ignore you, they're paying attention, they're watching you. And we know that modeling is a crucial mechanism through which children learn. So they are watching you. And if you have good emotion regulation skills, they are going to learn those skills from you. So this is just one type of strategy that you can use to help develop emotion regulation. But remember, our Executive Function 101 course, it starts soon. It seems like we started talking about this a couple of months ago, and all of a sudden it's here. But it starts on September 21st. And this is going to be a series of activities that will be posted every week. You're going to get at least 5 different activities. Each activity works on a different area of executive function. So these activities are really going to supplement what you're doing for your curriculum right now. And I know a lot of you want to focus this year on helping your child develop those executive function areas that sometimes are not taught directly in school. You know, we expect all of our children to have good, strong executive function by 6th or 7th grade, but it's very rare that the schools are teaching skills to lay the foundation for strong executive function in the earlier years. So now is your opportunity to take this year to really control that curriculum a little bit more and help your child develop the skills they need for strong executive function. And our Executive Function 101 course can help you with that. So if you go to our website at playattention.com and then click on resources, and then the very top is Executive Function 101 course. And when you register, the registration is $99, but that's for an entire family. So whether that you have 4 family members or 6 family members, or you're co-oping, you can enroll for $99. And if you use EF 2020, you'll get 20% off of that. So those are just good supplemental activities to help develop executive function. And if you are a current Play Attention client, these activities are really going to help reinforce what you're doing within Play Attention. So these are activities where you or your child can start applying the skills that you're learning within Play Attention to actual activities. So I hope that you will check that out. We also, if you are wanting a little bit more information about Play Attention and how Play Attention uses the latest research in neuroplasticity, as well as NASA-inspired technology in order to improve executive function and self-regulation, we're going to have a webinar this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time that will review our program and how we can customize a plan for you, whether you are an adult or you want to work with your child, or you're a professional and want to work with your clients. So you can go to our website and go to live webinars, and that webinar is listed there. We do have assessment packages and consultations. If you want to start talking about your customized plan, please do go to our website and register for a one-on-one consultation. And don't forget our Coffee Break Mondays. We have one more Coffee Break Monday before our Executive Function 101 course starts. So next Monday we'll take off. That will be Labor Day. I hope you all have some fun plans and are going to take it easy before we really start getting into this new school year. And then we'll have one coffee break following up, and that one is going to be about organizing those notebooks, those assignment books. That has been a big request from all of you. And then we will kick off the next Monday. We will be kicking off our Executive Function 101 course, and I really do hope many of you plan to attend. Thanks so much, everyone. If you have any questions and you're on Zoom, go ahead and type your questions in the chat box. If you're on Facebook Live, make certain you chat with us there, and we will be back in touch. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining me for your coffee break this morning. Bye-bye.